Hello, my name is Abraham, and I live in Texas, small town in Texas, and I wanted to give you a little bit of my testimony. And so I was this was let's see, when I had started, probably I want to say maybe 2 years ago, if that, maybe about 2 years ago. I had started going to this church, starting to get back right with God because I wasn't doing right. I would go my so-called friends and you know do things I wasn't supposed to. I wasn't really trying to change. I just bring more stress to my mom instead of helping her out. I was just making things more miserable at home. And some time comes to pass, and I had started going to a church, and this church was it was okay. It wasn't too spiritual. It was just a normal church. You go, you praise, you worship a little bit, you get a little bit of prayer in, and let's go home. It wasn't too spiritual, and so I started going. Maybe I want to say 2 months passed by. I'm still going to church, but before those 2 months passed, the pastors had asked me if I knew about computers, if I wanted to start working basically at the ministry. And I was like, yeah, yeah, that sounds like a good idea, but I didn't really jump in. Although I didn't jump in real fast. Like I said, I waited like those 2 months ish, if that, 2 months ish, and they asked me again. I think it came up, or I had asked again. It was something like that. I said, y'all still need a person to go up there, and do the computers. And he said, yeah. So he said, I'm gonna start, like basically tutoring me to start working on the programs that they were using for the to put the verses up to record the music because they will record the service. So like, okay, just to get the hang of it, save the files. So I learned and everything, and I want to say a little bit of time passed by, and I would put the verses up and put the music, but it's like if I wasn't all the way there, I stopped worshiping. I stopped, praising God. I through time I just started getting cold. Every time they wanted to go, up there to get prayed on, you know, like my mom would tell me like go up there, and I didn't want to, and I was at the church. I started going back to my old habits, smoking, and I just caught on, and I just didn't stop. I left the church, didn't go back, didn't have a mutual agreement with the pastors or nothing. I just took off and left. My mom still went to that church for a little bit of time until she stopped going, and she started going one right here in town with a pastor we knew, and so my mom started going, and my mom didn't stop ever praying for me. She didn't stop. She wanted me to go back, and I just wanted to keep being in the stuff that I was in. And I had just gotten so cold. I had got so bad. I didn't really want to hear too much of anything of God. I didn't. But glory to Him that right now that's not the case, and that He took the chance to change me. He didn't have to, but he did it, and glory to be to him. And there's things I just don't want to remember that I would do because it's like disturbing, you know. It's you know I don't recommend nobody to leave the road of God, to leave His ways. That's the worst thing you can do because without God you can't do nothing. You can't. You can't be secure in your life without Him. You can't walk down the street and think you're gonna be saved if you get hit by a bus. That's not gonna happen. Without Christ, you can't do nothing. And so it's like I said, some time passed by. I wasn't doing right at all. I I had went with my father and my little brother to Dallas, cause like I said, I live in Texas in a small town, and so my father he picked me up and he picked my little brother up, so we went, and my dad was like, don't bring none of that stuff. The stuff I used to do, don't bring it. Don't the stuff you do, don't bring it up there. I was like, okay, yeah, and I understand. He's a parolee, and we get pulled over, and he's liable to get taken to jail with me if we would get a pull over. And so I didn't, although he told me, but I didn't listen. I was doing bad. Like I said, I wasn't right at all. It had to be an everyday thing. I was just every day. That was a thing that only had me going all day. Was that filth. And so we had went to Dallas, and suppose it was gonna be a weekend. Just we were gonna go to. It was like a little party, I guess you want to call it. We we went, but before we went that day, um my family over there they had some quads. So me and my little brother we were riding on one, and I had got a little tipped over on his two wheels, and I felt like I had just got like in a little accident, but I wasn't hurting that at that time, and I had cut the back of my leg up, like it had got a almost like a type of burn scratch, and so that was it, that was it. I was like, okay, that's all that happened to me, and a few days passed by, and I started having this pain, my lower back, you know, like around my hip area on top. I just had this pain that would run down my whole entire leg, my left leg. And so I had went to the hospital. They told me, well, that's a sciatica nerve, and I had gotten pain pills, and so and it was like I was already doing one drug, and I had went and I had got basically addicted to another drug, and so now it was every time I had pain, I would run to the hospital, get a pain shot, get, you know, re up basically on medications. And although medications said 2 weeks, they would have been gone in a week. And I was just jumping up and down different hospitals until the hospitals didn't want me no more. There, I had went so many times, and it wasn't just one; it was several. It was just several all around here, all around a little bit out of town. It was just, you know, it was just embarrassing. It really was embarrassing. If it was embarrassing for me, imagine if it wasn't embarrassing for my mom having to go through that. And so I just, kept on doing my things that I was doing at that time, and At that time, I didn't want to hear of God. I really didn't. And glory to Him that He's changed me. And now I really don't even want to think about the stuff I would say. I didn't. I don't want to really think about it because it was trash. It was trash. I didn't. I don't really. I was so in my ways that I was that it was just I don't want to even think about it. It's just not. There's no good that can be said out of it. And like I said, I thank God, for Him taking me out of that. Because it wasn't for Him, I could have been dead or in prison. And and it being what I was doing, if I would have died, I would have gone sent to hell. Although God has compassion for us, but if we're not doing right, He's not gonna let us enter into heaven just because He has compassion. No, that don't mean that. But His mercy was always with me because there was stuff that I was doing that I could have died from doing it easily, but His mercy. And thank Him that He took me from that. He took me from all that stuff I used to do. And so, it was to the point where my pain was so bad that I couldn't be walking outside too much. You know, I couldn't go to the store and be walking all around the store, even if it was a small store. I really couldn't. The pain was so bad, and I had, I was just like I said, I was just so much pain. I started self harming myself. Imagine at that time I was just filled of depression, of anger, of a bunch of emotions, and glory to God that He cleans me. There's not a day that goes by that I don't think the same way I used to think. Cause I used to think bad. Now I mean it's just glory to Him that He's the only one that could do things like that. There's nobody else that can do that. Not no psychiatric. Nobody. 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 Cause He's the doctor. He can heal us. He's healed me from things that a doctor could not have done. Could not have done. And there's there's a lot to talk about, but there's some things that I don't remember of. And like I said, I would do self harm. You know, I would destroy things. Inside the house. And there was just one day where I just was like, I want to cut myself. Just so I won't feel the pain that I was having. And that was a mistake. That was a mistake. And now I gotta stick with a scar on my arm the rest of my life, well, the rest of the days that we have. And that's why